Hey, this is Lee Balcom, and just got off the call with a client. And after what happened on that call, I thought I better make a video because this may be what's stopping you from taking action. If it's anything like this person or the fact that I'd already gotten the same message a couple of times by email from other people earlier today, and it really stood out with this person, with this person who I was talking to. And so what had happened is we were having our introductory session, kind of a first session to get started, really dig in and figure out how to move forward. So we talked for a while about what was going on in the relationship. I'd helped them understand how the relationship had gotten to this point, why they were so stuck, and went through a lot of the explanation that you may have already seen on other videos where I talk about that pause button. And we talked about the fact that the connection had been all missing from the relationship and tangled up, and how they had begun to go from that arc of connection to the arc of disconnection. And I talked about all of those pieces and even mentioned the fact that they were well along that road to divorce that I talked about. So I thought we were making good progress. Thought we were kind of getting everything in gear. So I said, so what are you going to do? What's your plan for turning this around? How can I help you create that plan to turn it around? He said, I got a problem. And I said, what's that? What he said is something I've heard so many times that I figured I better make this and tell you how to get around this. He said, if I had confidence, if you could give me confidence in what was going on, if you could give me confidence that I could take action and make a difference, if I had more confidence, I would do this. I would be all about this. All I need is for you to give me confidence. So let me say right off the bat, I cannot give you confidence because confidence never comes from outside. But more than that, he's making a mistake that many people make in lots of things in life. If I had the confidence, then I would do those things. That's not the right way to be looking at this. So let me tell you what I think is a much better way of thinking about this. And this comes from somebody I respect in the coaching world, Dan Sullivan. Dan says that the path to confidence is 4 steps. And you have to go through each of these steps in order to actually arrive at confidence. And the problem is, and this is the problem, most people want to start with confidence, but that's never where it starts. Confidence is the end of the cycle. It'll start back up again because there's something else bigger beyond us, but confidence is not the start. And that's the problem. We're all waiting for confidence to get started. If I was confident that I could, win this game, then I would go play it. If I was confident that I could have a successful business, then I would start a business. That's not how it happens. So let's talk about how it does happen. Step number 1, commitment. That's where it starts. That's what I was trying to get to with this person. This person had contacted me, wanted help to understand how to save their marriage. And so that's where we were starting. Committing to something. Now, commitment means that you say, I am going in that direction. I am committed to this. And it usually means that there's something that's calling at you. There's a bigger purpose. And you say, I am ready to enlist on the way to that. I am committing myself. And committing yourself doesn't mean that you're guaranteeing success. It just means that you're going to act in that direction. Now, commitments sometimes get a kind of a dirty word these days. People think that they shouldn't be stuck with commitments, but commitment to yourself is what we're talking here. You don't have to tell anyone else about what your efforts are, but you've got to commit to yourself that you are going to move forward with this, that you will figure it out. Carol Dweck talks about the growth mindset. And what she says is the growth mindset is when we say, I am going to keep figuring this out. I'm going to work on this. Maybe I can't do it right now, but I'm going to work on this and figure it out. So while you're kind of thinking about what's happened in your relationship, and I've already given you a lot of the details of that. We've talked about the pause button marriage and what happens when that happens, the disconnection, and what connection is even about. I've done a video on that. We talked about the arc of connection and disconnection. We've covered that. So there's some pieces that are already in place for you. I talked about the different steps along the way, the stops along the way to divorce. And so you have some working pieces already at hand. But there's a piece that has to happen. And that is you have to commit to moving forward. Commit to yourself. Just to say, I am going to figure this out. That gets you beyond that first C of Dan Sullivan's process, commitment. You have to make a commitment. The second one's a scary one. This is where you really have to pull something, and that is courage. The courage to take action, the courage to do what's necessary, the courage to look at where you are, what needs to change in you, look at where the relationship and understand what that's about, the courage to take action, to reach out and connect with your spouse. Courage. I love that word, courage. Cœur, the root of that, cœur is heart in French. Courage is action that comes from the heart. It's action that you have to push through because you feel fear. Years ago, when my son was young, we were at a scouting meeting. I was helping out with his little Cub Scouts, and we were gathered around, and they were talking about some incident that had happened with the firefighters. And there had been a fire, and the firefighters had gone in and rescued some people. And I said, what do you think? Do you think they were scared going in? I mean, they took this courageous action of going in. Do you think they were scared? And the boys looked at me and said, no, they weren't scared. They were brave. And I said, but brave, courage. An element of that is fear always. If you don't fear doing something that you're doing, there's no courage involved. You're just doing it, right? If I say, I'm just going to go take a walk out on the trail, and I have no fear about taking a walk out on the trail, there's no courage of that. I'm just going to take a walk. But if there's some big mountain that scares me to death to climb, that would require some courage. I have to get beyond my fear and take action. So it's action in spite of the fear holding you back, or action because the fear doesn't matter as much as your commitment. So the commitment leads the action, but the action still requires you to step through that fear. The courage is deciding to do it anyway. And here is the problem with my client I was talking to. Fear was in his way. He was so fearful that he would not be successful that he could not start the process. I reminded him that not starting the process guarantees the result he does not want. Taking action doesn't guarantee the result that any of us want in anything in life, but not taking action does guarantee getting the opposite of what we want. And so many times we have to say, I'm going to step out in courage and do this anyway. So commitment leads us to take courageous action, have courage to move forward. Now, if you take action, if you're doing something, and as you're doing something, you're learning from it, then you land on the third step of this, capability. Capability is the ability to do something, right? You have the capability of doing something. So let's say I take up some activity. It scares me a little bit to get started, but I get started anyway. And as I'm doing it, I get a little bit better at it, right? I learn a little bit more. I develop some skills. I'm developing my capability. I'm expanding my capability. We do that everywhere in life. Take up a new hobby. Capability builds from that. Several years ago, when I decided to start jiu-jitsu, I made a commitment to go and follow through on taking those classes. It was pretty scary. I mean, to go out there and know that somebody's going to try to beat me up and I'm trying to not be beat up, that was the whole process. And so that took some courage. I mean, it was not a big deal, right? I knew I could always tap and get my way out of it, but it takes some courage to go out there and risk being embarrassed and risk having somebody try to put me in a pretzel and all the other things that happen there. So there's some courage involved. But as I kept going to class and I learned new techniques, new skills, I built my capability. Now, the capability comes before confidence, always. Because confidence comes because you know you can rely upon your capability to take you through. I became more capable at handling myself when we would roll, which is the same thing as sparring and other martial arts, but we would roll, right? We're practicing our skills. And so as my capability grew, I got better. And then pretty soon I was confident that I could deal with myself. You know, I could take care of myself when I was out there in those rolling matches. But I couldn't start with the confidence that I would do that. Imagine you walk in, you go, oh, I've got this, first day of class. I've got this, no problem, I'll win. You'll quickly be defeated. It's the same in anywhere in life. If you have confidence before you have any capability, it's false confidence. Now, what he was really looking for was reassurance. And what I tried to reassure him is that what he was trying to do was the right thing to do. That regardless of outcome, at some point you have to be able to look in the mirror and go, I did what I thought was right and I did the best I could. I tried to reassure him that he could get the resources he needed, the understandings he needed, but then he had to put that in action. So if you're waiting for confidence, don't. Start with your commitment. What are you committing to of working on restoring a marriage that deserves a chance? Commitment. Then you have to have the courage to take action. As you take action, you build your capability of rebuilding, of understanding the relationship, of changing yourself. You build the capability of getting to a new level, which leads to confidence that you are able to get there. Don't start with confidence. Start with a commitment to working on your marriage and restoring it. Don't fall into the confidence trap. Start at the right place. Commit to saving your marriage. And if I can help, visit me at savethemarriage.com. That's savethemarriage.com. This is Lee Baucom wishing you the best as you work to save your marriage.